Today's episode of the Citizen Effect podcast features a political candidate. Just because this political candidate appears on today's episode does not mean that the Citizen Effect, Keith Whidden, Devin Jones, or any offices that we are affiliated with have endorsed this candidate. The Citizen Effect podcast is an open forum for any candidate of a state, local, or national office to come appear and speak to me and Mr. Jones and anyone else that may be in the room with us. If you would like to appear on the Citizen Effect podcast and you are a political candidate, feel free to reach out to us on our social media. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Citizen Effect podcast. Today I am very excited to have a political candidate. In fact, it's the very first political candidate that has ever appeared on the Citizen Effect podcast. And it is Ms. Sabrina Racer. Sabrina, go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers and the listeners today.
Sure. I'm Sabrina Racer, and I am running for Ouachita Parish Clerk of Court, the Chief Elections Officer of the parish. I've been here in the Monroe area since 1996. I'm married for 18 years, have a daughter who's 14. I've been in the legal system for over 30 years, including working in private law firms, larger clerk's offices, the judiciary level, and 17 years of working hand in hand with the same computer software systems and cases that currently are housed at the Ouachita Parish Clerk of Court's office. And thank you for having me. I'm excited to do something new. I've always wanted to do a podcast.
Well, I'm very happy that you reached out to us and asked if you could be on this podcast. It's the first time that I'm interviewing a political candidate. And so I guess it's a learning experience for both of us. Before we jump into the podcast, go ahead and let the viewers and the listeners know where they could find you and find more information about the office that you're running for.
Sure. My present webpage is sabrinaracer.com, and that's Racer with a C, not a Z. Sometimes people get that confused, like Speed Racer. I do have a Facebook page as well, Sabrina Racer for Ouachita Parish Clerk of Court. You can find me there as well.
Okay. Sabrina, you're the very first political candidate. You're running for Clerk of Court. Clerk of Court is something that is very relevant to me as a criminal defense lawyer and expungement lawyer, very relevant to Devin, especially in, again, the expungement business that we co-own together. Mm-hmm. So what is the relevance of the Clerk of Court, not only for lawyers or judges, but also for the person that may be a property owner or someone else who's running for another political office? Because you and I know that the Clerk of Court has a very wide reach, but the listener may not. So give us as best you can, as quick, I guess, as,
sure.
Just tell us, how would you explain to the layperson, tell us how you would explain to anybody else what the Clerk of Court is, does, and why it's relevant.
Right. People are not educated, first of all, on the role of Clerk of Court. And it is a very important role because it handles everything, any kind of legal transaction, basically from birth to death. Regardless if you're walking in there for a marriage license, birth certificate, even a death certificate, that's where you would go. As well as if you are a property owner, if you're selling or buying property, it handles all the real estate transactions. Even prior to you selling your home, you should have a right to know if you have a lien on your property. Where do you find that out? You can find that out at the clerk's office. Find out if there's been a lien on your property. Find out if there's litigation on a piece of property. That affects real estate agents, title attorneys, even just regular citizens. People need to be educated that they have the right to go in there and look up this information, receive this information cost effectively, and make sure it's accurate. And when it comes to, a lot of people think of the court system as just handling civil litigation and criminal litigation. And we want to make sure that, I want to make sure that the deputies, the employees right now understand how many hours it takes to prepare what's coming to the clerk's office. We're the end stage of many, many hours of preparation in any kind of case that's going to be before the court. And we need to make sure that when we're presented with your filings, that we're looking at them, we're processing them correctly. If we have a question, we need to bring back that customer service, pick up the phone and say, hey, am I missing something? Is this what you meant to file with me today? And that's another thing too, is bringing back that customer service. We need, customer service is a very broad term, but it affects everybody. It affects not only the professional people that use the clerk's office. It affects the regular citizen. You want to feel welcomed when you come into the clerk's office, whether you're coming in person, making a phone call, or filing something digitally. You want to make sure that you are treated just fairly and efficiently and given the correct information.
So whenever you talk about customer service, it sounds like that would be a major plank in your position.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about the customer service aspect do you think the general public just doesn't have right now?
Well, right now, you and I are both in the legal system in different roles. We're used to going to the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
We know where things are where we know where the departments are. We're
Every
familiar with the first floor, the basement, the third floor, the fourth floor. Not everybody has that advantage. In fact, if you think about it, with the normal citizen or somebody, they may only come one time to that courthouse, regardless if you're coming to court or going to the clerk's office. But we need to make sure that experience is on point. What I mean by that is I've noticed there's a need to improve information. A direct information desk. Somebody who comes in off the street, hey, how are you doing, Mr. Whitten? How can I help you? Of course, maybe they may not know your name. If you're, Mr. Smith, I think I need to get a birth certificate because I'm applying for this or that or the other. Or I need to get a birth certificate for my child who's about to get a learn permit for driving. They shouldn't have to meander around. There should be one person designated to say, hey, here's the application in the meantime. Fill it out. Once you're done, go down, and see so-and-so who's handling that for you today. As well, so, that's what I mean by customer service. Having somebody there, because the Clerk of Court's position is it has a dual role.
Mm-hmm.
Besides being the chief elections officer, it's also the information officer for the parish. So for instance, we may not handle the information or what you're trying to get accomplished that day, but because we work with so many other government entities, nonprofit organizations, we should at least have that information or phone number at our fingertips to provide to that person. You might have somebody that comes in and wants to handle their own divorce, or I was going to say, support, custody support for their children. Maybe they just want to go through the state and handle it themselves. Well, the clerk's office wouldn't be your initial point. It would be through the DA's office. But if we train the people to say, I'm sorry, what exactly are you trying to get accomplished today? And they're like, well, I'm here because, I need to process this paperwork to have my spouse actually pay child support. Said, okay, we do handle that, but I think what you really need is to go to non-support, which is actually housed at the DA's office. I don't want the answer to be, we don't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
We should go beyond that. You should expect more. You should expect more from government. And that's just also helping the citizens as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, but my concern would be if we flip that, I would be afraid of the people at the information desk or the help desk inadvertently giving legal advice.
Okay.
How would you, what does that look like so that way your employee at the information desk doesn't give legal advice when they're not able to.
Right. Well, it's more of direction,
Mm-hmm.
more of direction, phone numbers, pamphlets, a list of here's a list, here's what's housed at the DA's office, here's what's housed at, the, what's the other government, if you have to contact somebody in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of giving them legal advice, it's a matter of listening.
Yes.
Asking the question, what are you trying to accomplish today?
Okay.
And then come right out and say, we cannot give you legal advice, but it seems that you have to go and speak to this person. Or, you can seek an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I've always used that phrase. I'm sorry, I can't give you legal advice. However, if you can search attorneys. At one time we used to say the telephone book. You don't say that anymore.
No, you don't.
Not now. I just say you can Google. You can put specifically what you're looking for. An attorney who handles family law or medical. Different topics or different fields of law. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at doing.
Okay, and that touches on the public. Again, we've covered that we're going to handle your birth certificates, we're going to handle your marriage license, then we're going to handle your divorce, then we're going to handle your death certificate. And so the question I was wanted to have more information about was the chief elections officer.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a CEO just with different words.
Right. And basically, not to confuse the Secretary of State with the clerk's office. A lot of people have concerns in reference to the hot topic of voting,
Mm-hmm.
how to vote,
Mm-hmm.
paper versus machines versus that. Of course, I'm all in favor in supporting for what's best for our citizens when it comes to an election.
Mm-hmm.
However, the main role of the clerk is to work in conjunction with the Secretary of State to make sure that the Secretary of State is given all the election results from the different precincts in our area. So, that's where the title comes from, Chief Elections Officer for the parish, because you have to realize there's 70 plus precincts in the Ouachita Parish area, and we need to make sure that all those results come in timely, hopefully, and then make sure the Secretary of State goes ahead and finalizes the elections.
Okay, well, and now you've piqued my curiosity. So what does that election night look like when you are having to gather, whether it be the mail-in ballots,
Mm-hmm.
and then the precincts from 1 through 70, and then make sure all that gets communicated
Mm-hmm.
to the state? Walk us through that election night.
Okay, well, my experience has been as an elections worker
Mm-hmm.
at an actual precinct.
Okay.
So basically, your morning starts at before the polls open at 6 o'clock. The night before they're making sure all the machines are out and ready for people. They're testing them. And because I have never worked in a capacity as a deputy clerk for the elections, I'm going to tell you a little bit more of when I worked the elections as a election worker, where you take a test. That was under the administration of Bill Hodge,
Mm-hmm.
and so you wake, you get up that morning, you make sure everything's working, you have your voter books out, you're ready to look at driver's license, whatever form of ID that person comes, you check their name, you verify their name, their address, they're given their information to go to the machine, mark their ballots. From there, that's throughout the whole day. And then by the end of the night when the polls close, you just pretty much you're taking that information, you're taking what is part of the machine, part of the results of machine, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing that to the clerk's office.
Okay.
Right. So they're not they're not instantly sent there right now.
Okay.
I think that's something that Secretary of State is looking into. Whomever wins that election
Mm-hmm.
is looking at either trying to modernize our election process.
Okay.
But like I said, that so it's a little bit different.
What do you think is lacking in the elections process now?
Well, that's my personal opinion, I guess, is what you're saying. Because, I think what I worry about is the integrity.
Okay.
Just integrity of voting. I just, in reference to voting, you want to make sure that every citizen's vote is recorded correctly. You don't want to, you don't want to hear, or I don't want to hear as a citizen that it wasn't recorded accurately. Yep. So that's my main concern right now is, based on what changes will be done, ultimately that's the Secretary of State's, they have the final word on that.
Does the clerk's offices around the state have any input on that?
Well, they have been invited.
Okay.
I have spoken to some local people who are part of the reform, I guess, election reform, or just to see what else is out there. And this has just been just regular speaking,
Okay. Nothing formal. Nothing,
right? Nothing formal. So, from what I understand, is Louisiana, especially out of Baton Rouge, Secretary of State, and there was a committee formed, and they do like the input of Clerk of Courts, and that's something that I plan to actually be a part of, is to have Ouachita Parish, the Clerk of Court's office, present, with a big presence in that.
Good. What do we'll skip that question.
Okay.
Well, now that we've kind of gone big picture on the clerk's office and the election side of things, the part that we cannot ignore is the legal part. What are some of the things that you see as a change that could be made or should be made in the legal departments, whether that be in the title side, the civil side, the criminal side?
I'm going to just start. First, I'm going to start in criminal.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to start in criminal is, presently we're in the criminal section where I'm working right now at the judiciary level. I noticed that there might always be a reputation if there's a backlog. But what I see for improvement is when it comes to using the computers in the courtroom with the clerk system, either they're not fast enough, maybe they don't have all the accurate information. And that can have an effect on a criminal case, regardless if you are the defendant or the victim. Everybody who's present on that day should have the right to have that information in front of them. And what I mean by that is, if you want to go back and try to research, back on this date when we were in court prior to today, this issue was brought up, or this motion was reset. Why was it reset? Was it reset because witnesses weren't there? Was it reset because it was a defense motion, a state's motion? A little bit more of information in those minutes will help possibly help that docket move further along. I'm not saying that the minutes are not accurate. I'm just saying we need to make sure that the minutes have exactly what transpired on that court date. Or sometimes you just, computer systems tend to be slow or fail, and sometimes you just can't get that information up in front of you, and you might have to reset that case.
So I'm going to challenge you.
Oh.
What if I say that I'm the minute clerk and you want more details on why a case was moved from this date to that date? Why wouldn't I just tell you I'm not a transcriptionist? Go ask for that.
Right. Well, true. Transcription is word for word. But at the same time, I think that it should say what parties were present, what actual parties were present. If one party had all their witnesses there, which witnesses were present versus the other party? Um, why was it continued? Was it continued because one of the witnesses who were subpoenaed did not show? That's not in there.
Well, but do you want me to take extra notes, or do you want me to make sure that the defendant gets served his next court date? Because I don't know if I can take all these notes
Right.
and also give a notice at the same time.
Right. Well, actually, I have been a minute clerk. I was a minute clerk as well at city court, and I was able to take notes and give notices. But at the same time, you have to have someone on your, usually what I do right now is with court operations, I make sure that my minute clerk that I'm working with is able to get all the information they need. I'm not saying write a book.
Well, but again, that's why I challenge you, why I push back.
Right.
A little
No,
bit.
you're fine. Right. And I don't want to seem like I'm trying to make more work. But if I think that her minutes do need a little bit more information in them, I'm not saying write a book. I just think factually.
Mm-hmm. You say that we at least need details on parties and any other party that should have been present.
Correct.
And we need to know a detail on why it was continued, whether that be it was a joint motion where both parties agree that, hey, we need a new date for this case, or it was just on the motion of one party or the other saying that I need a new date on this case, and the judge says, okay, I'm going to give you that new date. Or if it, again, is a lack of witnesses, maybe we're giving someone else extra time to reply to a motion or write a motion at their request.
And we've had those questions of, well, the attorneys might try to, work that out before getting in front of the judge. Wait a minute, no, this is what happened, or this is what happened. But if you have that information right in front of you, then you don't have to postpone your case.
Exactly. I know, I like that idea. And the other thing that I wanted to say, this is another pushback question, because we talked about how sometimes technology fails us. What if I say, well, that's a funding issue because we need, or I'm going to go even bigger. What if I say that the reason that my technology isn't fast enough is not just a technology issue, but it's a building issue. The building that the courthouse is in is, how old is it? Is it a century old? Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's around 100 years old. And we went from a time when people were scriveners to now where we have remote recording of proceedings. What if I'm telling you that the reason why is because this building was not made to have this kind of technology? There's trouble getting Wi-Fi all the way down to this courtroom. On the 4th floor, that used to be a jail with walls that are double thick. Wi-Fi signal and cell phone signal has a hard time getting from the router all the way down through the walls to where I'm sitting now. What if I tell you that that's my problem? That it's not a me problem, it's a technology problem.
Right.
What's your reply to that?
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, but it is true. It is your traditional state building. It is, but I think that what I was looking at more was basically the program that is in use right now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yes.
So you're saying that it's not necessarily it's the technology in the form of the software or the apps that the clerk's office currently uses.
Right. I mean, there's some room for improvement.
Okay.
There's some room for improvement within the new program that was rolled out unilaterally. We were, I don't believe anyone was actually asked how would this new program affect your office, affect your workload. I think that if we were given the opportunity, or even now where we're waiting for some enhancements to be able to be tweaked within the program, I think it will be a better program. So that's something I'm looking at too. And it's just a matter of actually sitting down, I think, with the actual programmer and asking them, hey, can you tweak it this way? Can you make it more usability friendly? And what I mean by that is, can we just check off boxes? Can I actually scan something in, an order? I don't have that availability right now. And, I think if I was to get in there and really sit down with the software people and let them know exactly, for instance, because I have a great unique experience of, working at the judiciary right now, I've worked at private law firms, I've worked at other clerks' offices. I have a good idea of what everybody's role is. They're different. An attorney versus a clerk versus a judicial assistant, but we're all working on that one case. But we have different jobs that work towards that one end goal. And so I have an idea, I have compassion and understand that, a defense attorney, what they're going to be producing in reference to a workload. I understand what I'm going to have to produce in reference to that same case. As well as, if you bring out, other people in. So I have that in my background. I have that as experience and say, you know what, I think this will work better. But I want to take it further than that. I think that having an employee driven, because like I said, the clerk's office is kind of like the end portion of any pleading or civil filing. And
but not in the end is that's where it goes to die. It's where the finished product goes.
Where the finished product goes, and so it's a matter of talking to the actual people who work it, who process it. How do you like the process we're doing now? Does it work with you? Does it make it flow? With you being a data entry person and the software you have to work, what do you see that can be made some improvements? And getting their ideas and making them part of that decision.
And so that leads me, like you said, no one asked what the users thought about COT hosting, which was the old system, or the current system, Clerk Connect. So I'm going to ask you, what, if you had the opportunity to say what you think about COT hosting versus switching to a different software, namely Clerk Connect, what would you have said, or what do you think that people that work in your part of court would have said?
Well, I would have loved to have the opportunity to be that guinea pig and say, hey, look, we're thinking of rolling this out. It might be 6 months out. Do you mind? Would you mind? I would have said perfect. As it is, the office I work at right now is paper light. And what I mean by that is I make digital folders in my computer. I don't keep the old-fashioned folder when something goes to trial. I keep digital folders, and that's everything I produce, an order versus jury instructions versus the veneer that we receive, everything. It's all digital. And so I would have pleasantly have liked to have said, let me work with this.